Fed Up Warrior here. This is going to be the first video of my new channel, Fed Up Warrior History. I think it's time people get the record straight on what's going on. This first video is going to talk about Abraham Lincoln. What people do not know. There are many things you're going to learn through this segment. I'm going to try to keep it as little as possible. This is my first video, so folks, please bear with me. The first debate about Lincoln and some of his shady tricks was a debate over the 13th Amendment. I'm going to do a show about this in itself, but I'm going to go into a brief detail. According to Constitution Daily, this is a article that brings it up. It talks about how the 13th Amendment wasn't ratified until 1865. The amendment was almost ratified in 1812. According to all this is basically what happens. Okay? This is what the article says. A few years ago, a group of Iowa Republicans claimed the legitimate 13th Amendment to the Constitution was missing. The debate is part of a historical detective story with some surprising twist that is still taking place. The Daily Beast did a fairly extensive feature on the missing amendment in 2010, which didn't feature a cloaked Freemason stealing the amendment. Okay? There was debate as to whether someone that was in the circle of Washington may have actually hijacked this actual documentation, because one reason why was it contained a secret map that was printed on the piece of paper. Instead, of the debate between historians and conspiracy buffs is about an amendment that was almost ratified in 1812 that would have been the 13th Amendment, bumping back the current 13th Amendment, which would have been ratified around this time in 1865 and abolished slavery. It would have been the 14th Amendment. And they go further into detail in the article about how there was some sort of confusion, whether it was part of the fact that the Founding Fathers took so long to ratify 3 more amendments up to this point, okay? But hold on. Now, here's some misinformation that's out there that I'm going to bring to your attention. Number one, they used Steven Spielberg's film Lincoln to present the narrative that it was Lincoln that actually brought forward the 13th Amendment. But here in just a little bit, I'm about to debunk that theory. According to American history, this site produces a theory about the original 13th Amendment. Okay, according to David M. Dodge, if the evidence is correct and no logical errors have been made, a 13th Amendment restricting lawyers from serving in government was ratified in 1819 and removed from the United States Constitution. They erased the original 13th Amendment. We're going to go into more details about this down the road, because this is this could have had rippling effects all the way in today. I'll put it like this. Our last president was a lawyer, and that would have affected him if that was put into place. However, they were so hyped into ratifying this so-called 13th Amendment, in all technical accords, the slaves were never freed. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime where the party shall have doubly convicted, shall exist within the United States. All this means is you are enslaved. Do you get it now, folks? This is one theory why I have major problems with Mr. Lincoln. I've known about the ideology about how Abraham Lincoln was a very defiant president. This article right here, Compliments of the American Presidency Project, sums it all up. I want you to take a look at this. What you are seeing is Proclamation 113. Proclamation 113 is declaring martial law and a further suspension of the writ habeas corpus. The reason why he did this was simply put, he didn't have enough votes in the U.S. Congress or Senate to ratify laws during the Civil War. You have to understand, when the North and South divided, those delegates and those senators and congressmen all went to the South. All right? He didn't have enough. So, what he did on April 15th, 1861, he declared that the laws of the United States had been for some time past and were opposed to the execution thereof, obstructed to certain states. He made it a martial law. Initially, from what a lot of historians are saying, he was supposed to take us out of martial law once it ended. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, what happened was he was assassinated. So since April 15th of 1861, we have been under martial law. That is, in all estimates, around 157 years because of his defiant acts. He could have used the delegates and senators and congressmen from the remaining states that were loyal to the Union. He didn't have to enact martial law. That essentially enacted defiance. Defiance against the government, defiance against the Constitution. Did you know our country endured a second bankruptcy? A second bankruptcy. The first one happened around 1791. Because during the American Civil War, the National Banking Act was passed. Here in just a second, we're about to go into details what this really meant. I'm going to read the first paragraph, and this will give you an idea how screwy things got after this, okay? The National Bank Act of 1863 was designed to create a national banking system, float federal war loans, and establish a national currency. Congress passed the act to help resolve the financial crisis that emerged during the early days of the American Civil War. The fight with the South was expensive, and no effective tax program had been drawn up to finance it. And in December of 1861, banks suspended specie payments, payments in gold and silver for paper currency called notes or bills. People could no longer convert banknotes into coins. Government responded by passing Legal Tender Act, issuing $150 million in national notes called greenback. However, banknotes, paper bills issued by state banks, accounted for most of the currency in circulation. Basically, the bottom line is this was a more primitive ploy, similar to what the Federal Reserve did in the early 20th century. It was important to them, it was important this National Banking Act get passed. It was to devalue our government. And down the road here, it's very important to understand, down the road, we end up going bankrupt again. And this time, it took the United States enacting a corporation. Now, down the road, I will talk about that one as well, because the Civil War plays a big factor in all this, and President Lincoln was just steadily letting this all happen. Now, do you understand why I have serious issues with Mr. Lincoln now? Believe me, the school systems paint a very goofy picture of Mr. Lincoln. The man was a tyrant. The man freaking put us on the path. We ended up going bankrupt. He declared martial law. He defied the Constitution. But yet, a lot of people, including school systems, praise him for what he has done. And here's another kicker. I'm about to explain to you one more before I wrap this up. Look at all this, folks. A calendar, Abraham Lincoln tradition. Abraham Lincoln is Sacramento City Unified School District. Young Abraham Lincoln National Park Service. Abraham Lincoln Traditional School in Phoenix. Look at all this, folks. Do you understand now? He was a tyrant. He freaking declared martial law and never got us back out of it. And when he quote-unquote was going to, he gets killed. He put us on the path of a banking system that was similar to the Federal Reserve, devaluing our currency, putting us on paper money instead of freaking gold-backed money. I don't get that at all. What part do people need to understand? And the original 13th Amendment had nothing to do with slavery. It had everything to do. If the original 13th Amendment was enacted, this man right here, along with several others, would have never been president of the United States. And the real 13th Amendment doesn't technically end slavery. It only suspends it for a certain duration, for certain occurrences. That's not ending slavery. He shouldn't have partaken in the National Banking Act. He should have never declared martial law. He had enough states in the U.S. government, in the Union, to enact federally voted laws. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. He ruined this country. People need to understand what he was really all about. He is not the greatest president of all time. He was one of the more substantiated tyrants of history. And that's what people need to understand. I'm not talking as a Republican. I'm not talking as a Democrat. I'm talking as a person who wants the truth. If you like this video, please share the video. And those that are new to my channel, I will put out videos at least once a week, showing you a side of the history that nobody else will tell you. And as always, thank you for watching.